online public lecture on the challenges of the post-COVID economy. This public lecture is organized by Loyola Institute for Social Science, Training and Research and the School of Human Excellence. This lecture is going to be delivered by Honorable Dr. Thomas Isaac, Finance Minister of Kerala. And today's format is going to be like this. We will have first the speaker for the day, Honorable Minister, to be introduced and properly introduced. And the Minister will be speaking to us for about 40 to 45 minutes on the challenges of the post-COVID economy. By that time, meanwhile, the participants can post your questions in the chat box. We have a team to collect those questions and comments, and that will be placed before the Minister when he completes his speech. And the Honorable Minister will be responding to those questions, and with that, we will conclude the meeting by 7:15. Unfortunately, today our principal could not join us at the last minute due to some technical glitches. So it is my joy and pleasure to introduce Dr. Isaac Thomas, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Government of Kerala. We have been warned that the life will not go to normal after the 1919 pandemic has been continued. But what will be the new normal? And how best can we shape it to be humane while economically sound? The Honorable Minister, Dr. Thomas Isaac, is going to tell us about the economic impact of COVID-19 on India and what is needed to rebuild a dynamic and equitable economy. The worst of COVID-19 impact will be felt by India's most vulnerable in terms of job loss, poverty increase, and a reduced per capita income, all of which will be reflected in a steep decline in GDP. Up to 135 million jobs could be lost, and 120 million people could be pushed into dire poverty, all of which will reduce consumer income, spending, and savings. What range of measures policymakers can take to avert this disaster while protecting the neediest, the most vulnerable? What will happen to the rural India? That is where, according to Gandhi, India lives. Will farming be an attraction for the migrants who return to their source countries, source states? Village handicrafts and cottage industry will ever see a daylight? What is going to be the emerging economic scenario for the rural poor and for the urban poor? To respond to this and to many other questions, we have Dr. Thomas Isaac, the Honorable Minister of Finance, Kerala Government, with us. Let me have the privilege of introducing him to this august audience. Dr. Thomas Isaac, a four-time MLA from Alappuzha, has been serving as a Minister of Finance in the LDF-led ministry headed by Mr. Pinarayi Vijayan, Chief Minister. He was previously elected to Kerala Legislative Assembly in 2001 and 2006 from Maraikollam Assembly constituency, and in 2011 from the Alappuzha Assembly constituency. He was a research associate, associate fellow, and fellow at the Center for Development Studies from 1980 to 2001. Awarded doctorate in 1985 by the JNU through the CDS, Jawaharlal Nehru University. He was State Planning Board member from 1996 to 2001. State President and Choir Board Center Parliamentary Party Secretary in Kerala Legislative Assembly between 2001 and 2006. And he was Minister of Finance in the initially from 2006 to 2011, and Central Committee member of the CPIM since 2008. Dr. Thomas Isaac is a well-known economist and a politician. He has authored a number of articles on economics, planning, and politics. He has published in the leading regional, national, and international periodicals, presented lectures and papers in national and international conferences and seminars, authored more than 50 books, both in Malayalam and in English, won Kerala Sagitya Academy's award, Keralam Mannum Manushyayanum in 1989. A serious researcher, academician, writer, thinker, philosopher, and a politician. This is a rare combination. May I now invite him to speak on the challenges of the post-COVID economy. Dr. Thomas Isaac.
Thank you for the kind words. It's indeed a great privilege to address Loyola College. I always had a special place in my heart for Jesuits for the simple reason. At one stage in my life, when my transition to the left wing, the communism, from my very Christian background, it was through Christian socialist principles, Sebastian Kappen, and a number of priests, in fact. And therefore, it is a great privilege, I consider, to spend this evening with you. Now, let me get to the topic straight away. COVID-19, the pandemic, has impact, twofold impact. One on the health, other on economy, on life, and then on livelihood. Of course, both are interrelated, impact upon each other. But I am going to focus more on the economy, the impact it has in the economy, what the nations are trying to do in the economy, and perhaps what we should try to do in India. Now, COVID is, the virus is new, and we don't have a remedy yet, medical remedy yet. If you are lucky, a vaccine may appear before the end of the year. Meanwhile, the treatment possible are only two. If you are infected, you are given symptomatic treatment. But best option is not to get infected. And the solution is not vaccine, that has to be discovered. The solution is social distancing. That's it. Now, what is its economic implication? The world economy has been getting more and more integrated, coming more and more nearer to each other. And here is a disease which wants to separate everybody, separate the nation, separate the town and countryside, separate the production units, separate the individuals, distance them. So what is the economic impact of it? It will be breaking of the supply chains in the global economy. Suddenly you find you don't have enough raw materials. You find you cannot sell your products, export your products, and then the extreme form of social distancing, which is locking down. Everybody is staying indoors. Shutter comes down on the economy. Everything stops. So the impact of the disease is something very different from other diseases, even other epidemics. Here, because the solution, at least for the time being social distancing, you have no choice but to slow down the pace of the economy and, if necessary, shut it down. And this has happened world all over. See. And therefore, what is the impact of pandemic on the global economy? Well, initially, everybody underestimated the impact. If you take the first report, the World Outlook of IMF, they were still thinking about a world which would grow by 1%. Now, their latest economic outlook, they would say it would be global economy will be down by -4. That's because they still think China would make it to +1. And India, it will be 4.5 down. Okay, contraction by 4.5%. Already, many rating agencies have predicted much worse for India. My own estimate would be something of the order of 10% contraction in the economy. That's a huge thing here. We have not seen something like that. And that's what's going to happen. So you have a global recession and parallel. See, you had worse recession in the 1930s, which began in 1928, 29, and took many years, many seasons to spiral down to the final bottom of the spiral. But here suddenly something is happening. All of a sudden, in a matter of months, economic plunges, economic activity stop. So this is something unprecedented. Simultaneously, the supply chains are broken and the demand collapses. There is a collapse of the aggregate demand and also of the supply. Okay, this is some unique feature of the post-COVID economic crisis that is taking place. Now, shutting down of the economy, it has got two impacts. One, on livelihood of the people. They lose their livelihood, they lose their employment, they lose their job, and they lose their income. And once you lose your income, then you slip into poverty. You have just said about the number, about 12 crores of people are going to slip into poverty. So there is absolute immiserization that is going to take place. And everybody, except for a creamy layer, the standard of living is going to go down. Okay. The demand is going to collapse. Now, the enterprises, particularly small and medium enterprises, now just imagine a shop owner, a 2-month lockdown. You shut your shop. You have no chance to come back. You come back to it after 2 months. You think the things remaining inside the shop can be sold? See, there's a simply destruction of small and medium enterprises that take place. So even if the demands come back, okay, now this after some time, suppose there is demand, they are not going to resurrect. They have absolutely fallen. So it has got impact upon the firms, small and big, and also, and particularly small and medium, and also on the poor. So now the question is, how do you address this situation? And that's the theme given to me to talk about. So we have got two sets. One, the people at large whose standard of living plunges and absolute hunger is becoming widespread. The other is small and medium firms. They are folded up, they cannot open, and investment is horizon is very bad. So investors, those who have money, they don't want to spend, they withdraw. So how do you address them? If you look the response of the nations to this situation, there is very significant difference between countries to country. I would say first, the developed countries, the Western countries, OECD countries, let's put it that way. Second would be the poor countries. Now, we are not supposed to be a very poor country. We are an emerging economy. We, China, Brazil, Russia, and South Africa, and of course Southeast Asian tigers. We are supposed to be emerging. So the poor countries, rest of the world, majority of the people, majority of the countries, not people, China, India constitutes the majority. And then the emerging economies will take India. Look at a comparison of these responses of these countries that is taking place to pandemic. Now, if you take the developed countries, now all of them have become Keynesians. That's a thing. Even Trump has become a Keynesian. He doesn't care a hoot for what have they done? The biggest package in the history of United States stimulus package, which involves one, huge unemployment elements that is already there. Everybody loses job is being paid, and every person, every citizen almost is given something like $1,000 handed out per capita. Children get something little less, but everybody is given helicopter money. Okay, thing is that you get money, then you have some money, though you have lost a job, then you spend. So this is something very unusual. In Britain, you lose the job. Of course, everybody lost the job, but the firms are supposed to make the payment salary, of which the firms will pay 25% or something, but rest is given by the government. I know a friend of mine is having a nice time in India, saying he's not going back, but he's staying back here. But he is a journalist or linked to some TV stations. Therefore, he's registered himself as a firm. Therefore, he gets his helicopter money from the government of Britain. And with that money in India, you can be a fantastic life. So even there, ordinary citizens are supported. This is same for all the developed countries. That's one part of it. And then they are giving support, buying of the bonds of the private sector. Okay. You usually only big corporations, banks buy the share, but now you not share bonds, but the government buys the bonds. They are directly supporting them. Okay. Therefore, this is the biggest stimulus package. Now, yesterday, European Union has come out with a huge 750 billion pound, 75 billion pound package. Again, that's a second package they're having. America, be sure, election is coming. Trump is going to have another package. So this is what they are doing. And where do they get this money from? Simply, they are taking from the Reserve Bank. That's it. Their federal bank are funding this stimulus package. They are not borrowing from the market and so on. They are taking from the the central banks. In fact, the Bank of England had done something. They have said they have given unlimited overdraft facility to the English, the UK government. They can borrow any amount. So here is central bank financed a huge stimulus package which supports each individual citizens and also supports the firms. They had no qualms regarding that. Nobody is afraid if there will be inflation. Simply for the simple fact, there's absolute collapse of demand. Therefore, there is no question of inflation taking place. The price of petroleum products, petrol and diesel, are the lowest. And therefore, there is no economic panic taking place there, okay? Everybody is assured of it. The worst is the other extreme, the poor developing countries. Now, they cannot on their own print notes because that will may lead to hyperinflation. And they borrow more from outside the first world. More their markets are, money markets are not developed and so on. Therefore, they are dependent upon borrowing from outside. So their indebtedness has risen once again, like in the 1970s and 80s. So now they can't get money also. Really, they don't have any stimulus package worth the name. Forget stimulus, giving relief to people. And this is where hunger is going to emerge in the world. And therefore, even IMF was so upset that of this plight of the people, they decided to print SDRs. You know, dollar is the international currency. So Keynes had a great idea of a banker. You see, when international currency, dollar is international currency, America gets a big advantage. Just like India government can print notes in India, and we all will accept it without question. Just like that, America can print any amount of dollar, and rest of the world will gobble it up. They think it's as good as their money, better than their money, in fact. You see, that's the currency, international currency. So Keynes always wanted to have international currency which is not tied to any government. So when IMF was found, the same idea resurrected. IMF would have a currency called special drawing rights, which was given to, it's not printed and distributed to individuals, but given to countries. They can keep it in the foreign exchange reserve. And whenever they need foreign exchange, they can sell it to another central bank and get foreign exchange. So every country, member country, is given a quota in IMF SDR. So SDR was initially printed, but then America saw to that SDRs are not printed because that would be a challenge to dollar. So yes, they want total control of the international currency. So now IMF, all people, they came forward with the idea, we will create some SDRs. A huge bundle of SDRs. Of course, America will get, India will get the share, but these poor countries also will get their share of it. That much relief to them. But very surprisingly, India joined with America, US, to start it. So they don't have anything. Day before yesterday, I don't know why I was contacted by the ex-president of Brazil, the ex-finance minister of Greece, and Zambia, a former politician. I suppose the radical persons who have been in the seat of power to issue a joint statement, about 6 of us, a joint statement to demand that debts be annulled. these debts cannot be paid back, at least for this period, to annul it. Don't try to give them money, so that annul a part of this debt, so that they are free from the debt. They can provide relief to the people, provide some stimulus. So now we come to the emerging economies, the India. Also, I'll skip to India. Now we have a large population who are very poor. Okay, like the other poor countries. But we have very dynamic industry and so on, unlike those poor developing countries. We are a middle-level developing country, but with this population, large people who may be above the poverty line, but who any day can fall below the poverty line. Okay. Being just above the poverty line doesn't mean anything. It means you have below poverty line means you don't have even bare minimum to live. Okay. Being above bulk of the population is just above the poverty line, and all these guys are going to push down into the poverty line because of COVID. So you need to look after them. You have to provide relief to the people. Second, you have to stimulate the economy. Now, this is the tragedy. Very little relief is being given to the people. I should not say nothing is being given. On the positive side, I would say FGNREGS has increased by 50%. Something new that is given is free rice is distributed to the families. That's it. And 500 rupees a month to the accounts of the people, Jandan accounts, and these are the only three things that has been done. The farmers, Samman, etc., is something ongoing program, nothing additional to it. But on the other hand, the kind of economic catastrophe that has fallen on, say, 8 to 10 crore of migrant workers, that's the greatest tragedy that independent India has seen since the partition. See, there is something common with all the right-wing governments all over the world. If you take Brazil, if you take Boris Johnson in UK, you take USA, Trump, everyone, they have a disdain for nature, okay, but no respect for imbalances that may emerge in their nature, and nature taking a revenge on you. No. And therefore, they have been slightly disdainful about this epidemic and their implications. The first time Trump has started wearing mask, okay. Boris Johnson has to be hospitalized before he realized the situation. He is now twice both recurrence of the COVID for the Brazilian president. So initially, India also was not very careful about it. Say, I'll contrast. In the middle of January in Kerala, the health minister called up, set up working groups in every district, control rooms in every district, alerted, mock drills conducted. Because we had this experience in Nepal before that. Therefore, we knew this virus with so many people from Kerala going outside is going to definitely come. So we prepared ourselves. But nothing much was done. Then all of a suddenly you realized, much earlier than many other people, that something terrible is going to happen. So you just imposed the lockdown. So you lock down everybody, even these migrant workers, in their own towns and workplaces, with no food and with no care, nothing. So for those so desperate, the moment is left, they fled. And then they carried with them all virus to Eastern India and Central India, which was COVID-free before lockdown. There was no COVID in the eastern whole of Eastern India and Central India. When you lock down without testing and everything, what happens is that the disease multiplies. In Mumbai, in Delhi, in many Chennai, many cities, and then people flee from there, take the virus, spread it all over. Now, when they go back, you think there is going to be job waiting for them there? Now, once the virus spreads there, the same scene is going to be repeated there. It's an unparalleled human tragedy that is taking place. See, states by themselves cannot do very much. Let me say, I don't blame any state government. Because states in India face a hard budget constraint. States cannot borrow on their own. States cannot print money. States have to be confined to their own revenue and the loans that are permitted by central government. Therefore, sometimes an unexpected calamity occurs. There is no way they can raise more resources. But something that we did in Kerala was, when the lockdown was declared, the next day we declared, stay calm, no problem. Everybody had 20,000 crore package. See, all the money, various entitlements. 55 lakh persons in Kerala are entitled to 1,300 rupees per month as pension, all the elderly. So we front-loaded the payment, arrears, everything. So about 6,000 rupees to everybody. Money gets into the hands. There were arrears of scholarship and so on. Scholarship and so on, payments to be made during the course of the year. We've paid them all out. We have got a very, very strong microfinance network of Kudumbashree. 45 lakh families are members. So they have very good credit record, repayment of 99%. So we told the banks, you pay them additional 2,000 crores. That is pumped in. And various ways your cooperatives will said, government will stand with you, paid. So pumping in money into the hands of the people. And we put up, every village, panchayats, very strong local governments, told them start the canteens, community kitchens. Local governments get a huge lot of more money. And said you can spend from that. So, normally this cannot be done by a state government. So what we did in Kerala was, we have permitted 27,000 crores of loans this year. We just took 10,000 crores of loan in the first month itself. And we had to pay a price for that. We had to pay 9% interest. Astounding. These banks are so afraid to lend even to state government. See, there's a credit freeze. Everybody wants to avoid risk. So when a state government comes to ask for, okay, we want 10,000 crores of rupees, then everybody puts up a huge, big interest rate of 9%, thinking that you may backtrack. But we have decided on a program of supporting the people, and therefore, interest rate is something secondary. We took the money, we gave it. Now, this is the difference in the approach I want to tell you. Not that a lot of things have been done, but what could have been done is done. Okay, that's one. Secondly, you have to support your MSME sector. Now, what is happening in India? They have given moratorium, 6 months. Now August 31st, the moratorium is going to end. Then what would happen? They are forced to pay the interest for the 6 months as well as repayment schedule. They are not started really production here. How will they make the payment? So suppose they don't make the payment, what would happen? All our banks will be in trouble with the rising NPA. Now when the NPAs rise, the capital adequacy ratio will be disrupted. Then what? Government will take an excuse for privatizing the banks because they don't have capital. You see, there's a chain of events that are forthcoming. You see. That's because no real support other than, say, lending by the financial institutions is there. The budgetary outflow of this 20 lakh rupees stimulus package is very, very limited. Others are all credit linked. In a situation where there is virtual credit freeze, risk aversion is taking place. Of the 3 lakh crores of rupees promised for MSME, today I read the report that only 22% is given, delivered. So it's a very minimalist approach, you see. So this is not a support enough. Why? This is a question. I don't want to go into detailed critique of the stimulus package, but I will speak about something, why it is happening. That is because Government of India, I think, have a game plan. COVID will go, maybe end of the year or beginning of next year. Global economy will wake up again. Then the strategy is that India should come out with fiscal consolidation. Our revenue deficit, our fiscal deficit will be at 3 plus 2%, 5%, 6%, no runaway. All countries in the world may have 10, 11%, but not India. We are fiscally consolidated, very strict. And we will also send the message that here is a country which has not left any principles of neoliberalism. Okay, we are carrying out reforms. Reforms like, for example, all the labor laws. I don't say no labor law reforms need to take place. But I'm saying unilaterally cancelling all the labor laws through an ordinance. We have 5 states in India. See, why does anybody wants to do it? Anyway, everything is locked down here. So cancelling the labor law doesn't have any direct implication at that moment of time. The argument given is the workers have left from Gujarat. Very good. If the workers have left, what you should try to do is there are 2 ways possible. You try to work the workers, make the workers work more, longer hours. Not 8 hours, but 12 hours. Or you can bring in machine. That's what another choice. But you have chosen the second path. Labor laws. Privatization of the banks themselves, financial institutions. So you want to give a message out. Well, this is a message here. That we are following a path. This is a country where we are assured of security. We play by the rule. And therefore come. India becomes an investigation destination, enabling us to move forward. This is not accidental. But what is the price? What is the price? The entire burden of this calamity has to be borne by the people, by the hungers, disease, and poverty. On it will be built future India. Now, even to imagine such a nation building is something terrible. Something terrible. So, and there is nothing to say that country is going to emerge from this in this manner. You can have a situation, as I told you, a financial big problem of NBS, bank getting problem, and so on and so forth. So there is nothing certain about what is going to come. But one wonders why India is keeping away from sales track which all the developed countries are taking. Why is refusing to borrow money take money from the central bank, but insists it will take only from the normal banking sector, and also see to that you keep the fiscal deficit to 5%, 6%. Though Abhijit Banerjee would say, forget about fiscal deficit. This is not the time you play with that. You think about it. This is not the time. It's a calamity period. So we in Kerala, I'll stop 5 minutes, I stop. Yeah, we're just getting 45 minutes, your time you said. We work within a federal framework. Therefore, we cannot go out of that framework. But nevertheless, I told you, even within the limitations, the kind of support we have tried to give to the people, we'll continue to do that. The disease is spreading because 5 lakh people have come from outside. And because we were very stringent, when they come, they should come with passes, tell us when they are coming, so that they can be tested, taken straight to their homes and so on. But here, people are coming train loads. Nobody knows who is coming, where they're going. Even in the plane, only the flight lands will know who are coming and where they want to go. So the spread is taking place. But we are trying to our level best to see that people will be supported. Additional relief will be given to them. But then, how are we thinking of taking Kerala out of this present crisis? One, our local governments. We are going to mobilize people. Kerala, a lot of people work in the Gulf. And therefore, our per capita income, total per capita income, including the remittances, will be one of the highest in India. We consume, per capita consumption is highest in India. Therefore, Malayalis have got a feeling we have money, we can buy anything from outside. So nobody cultivates the field. Kerala have got tree crops, but we used to grow a lot of intercrops between the trees, which are labor intensive and so on. So everybody has given it up. Paddy cultivation is labor intensive and so on, and they're given up. So now everybody is suffering. Now vegetables tomorrow may not come from Tamil Nadu, rice may not come from Andhra. So there is this fear coming up. So we are using this occasion to say we should become self-reliant in vegetables, in egg, in milk, and produce at least 25% of our food grain. Now we produce something like 12% of our food grain. So at least 25%. A huge campaign on agriculture, participatory. Everybody, starting from Chief Minister's house, everybody will cultivate vegetables, do plant fruit trees, and so on. This is something that we are doing. We are trying to open up our industries by finding new products and markets. Like, for example, Kerala Health is now very good brand. Therefore, we think our pharmaceuticals have got advantage. We are going to concentrate on pharmaceuticals. I'm choir minister also, because I did my PhD on choir industry. I thought I begged and got this because wanted to do something in choir industry where I started my academic career. So now it's a export dependent industry. Suddenly exports have stopped. What do you do? So we have said COVID mats, sani mats. You have gloves for your hands, mask for your face. What do you have to protect your feet before you enter the house? Clean your thing. So a mat which is put in disinfectant, you can rub your feet and go in. And choir it does not harm if it is in water. So it's a product. So we have found a new product, market for our product, make an opportunity of the prices. For example, we have a lot of resorts, but no tourism. So we are telling all the IT industry people, particularly all of them have a lot of Malayalis working there. Let them work near their home. You can take a resort and set it as a workstation for a year. We'll subsidize your conversion to workstation. And people are showing interest. Okay, so we may lose tourism for a year, but we would have a foothold in IT by then. So there is a strategy. And finally, we have done something which many states don't have made, not thinking of doing. Both center and state governments, when they implement big projects, they get a special purpose vehicle to implement it. Okay, you want a metro rail, you have a company for metro rail, then this company goes out and borrows. Okay, now we have expanded it into a financial institution, a Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board, whose sole task is to borrow for various types, go and showcase the projects and borrow. Now, how do they borrow? What guarantee is there? Why should people pay for it? Why should people lend money to them? Well, we have legislated half of our motor vehicle tax will be paid to this institution. So they are assured of a future income flow, growing income flow. So they will. I can take a beautiful, say, let's say, latest on K4. K4 is a project of supplying free internet to all the optical fiber broadband to every poor household in Kerala. Next year, every household in Kerala will be internet connected. All the office in government will be internet connected. Internet is a right. There will be no digital divide. It costs 1,500 crores. The elaborate has been prepared. Program has been, the detailed DPR has been prepared. Yesterday, we talked to NABARD. Then NIDA gives to private enterprises. So NIDA want to know how you will repay. So KIFBI shows them their future income flow. This year, they're getting something like 2,200 crores from Kerala government. Next year, they would get by law some 2,500, third year 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, like that. They securitize the future income flow. Yesterday, they granted 1,500 crores for 1,000 crores for the K4 program. We have rolled out 50,000 crores infrastructure projects like this. 50,000. That's our stimulus package. That's our stimulus package. So we hope we will emerge from the pandemic much more stronger. Much more stronger. Without sacrificing the people. We'll protect them and still emerge strong. Thank you. I think I'll take questions now. 45 minutes is all.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas Isaac. That was a wonderful presentation. Excellent joy here, to hear you spelling out, the dark side as well as the bright side and the challenges and how we can overcome those challenges. And personally, I immensely liked it. There are also questions coming up. And let me first present to you a first set of questions.
Yeah.
You choose to, respond to the questions, which you think, are relevant. If India recovers quickly from the COVID-19, how many years will it take to reach the same economic level again or better?
Yeah.
Can the government go for increasing the subsidies for industrial and agricultural sector to somehow safeguard the vulnerable sectors of the economy, the stimulus about which you were talking?
Yeah.
You can start responding to these questions, then I will come back to another set of questions.
And now I don't believe there will be a quick recovery. There were many people who were initially saying that first quarter is gone, second quarter will be coming back to normal. No. Now everybody accepts till the end of the year we will be working below the capacity and the overall production will contract. It's accepted 5%, it will be much higher. I'm not one who is saying that it's going to be L-shaped, that you're going to be there for a long period, but it'll be a U-shape, prolonged U. And it may take 2-3 years. Why I say 3 years? You take demonetization. How many years did we take to recover? The small enterprises has folded up.
Yeah.
And you see, I was the first in the country to hold a press conference against it. I was in my office at 9 and working. Normally I go late from my office. Then I heard this stuff. I thought crazy. So at 10 o'clock in the night, I held a press conference and said, this is crazy. It's not done like this. It will be calamity. The black money is not held in notes. It in various forms and is stored outside India. You cannot catch them, but you will be destroying the enterprises. It took so many years. So therefore, it would take at least 3 years for India to come back to normal and to where we started. So I don't expect quick recovery, but minimum 2 years before we reach back to where we were in the normal rate of growth. Now, it also depends how fast the world economy is going to recover, because the demand in India will continue to be subdued. Income of the people are not going to rise. But it will therefore depend upon how much exports will pick up and so on. So it's going to be pretty long. Then about can we increase subsidy to industries and people and so on? Is there a limit to it? That's an interesting question. But why don't you do a calculation about the subsidy given to corporates in the recent period? 1.5 lakh crore rupees is corporate taxes itself. Without anybody asking you. Have you heard any corporate asking for it? See, it was simply done. I don't know why it was done. Maybe Trump likes tax cuts very much. Therefore, you want to outdo him before you went for a visit to the US of America. I don't understand why it was done, because even corporates were not asking for it. Take, for example, the write-offs, the bank loans. What is bank loan write-off other than subsidy to corporates here? Of the 5 lakh crores or 6 lakh crores written off, maybe 50,000 crores or 1 lakh crores will be of small and medium and below. Others are all big corporates. Add them all up and see what is the kind of subsidy that is taking place, being given for the industrial houses in India. It's not, see, nobody counts them as subsidy. But reality, they are outright subsidy. Look at the natural resources. Now, the kind of the payment that is royalty that India would get from our natural resources, the land which is given free, and tribal land and so on. So there's a huge subsidization of industry corporates that is taking place. Only where the squeeze that takes place is on the people. That's where every cut is going to come. See, I would say, what should emerge from the pandemic? One, in India, where there will be an excellent public health system. You invest 1 lakh crore rupees in Indian public health. When Ayushman Bharat was implemented, India government had promised wellness centers. Now, only place wellness centers is coming up is in Kerala. Kerala, Tamil Nadu have good primary healthcare network. So, invest in the primary health center. Let every district have now a COVID hospital, which can be converted into a hospital later, specialist hospital. So India emerged from this as a nation with good health. So this is investment, you see. To invest in the people. Second, invest in local governments. See, they are the people who can now help the locality. So India, which is vibrant local governments, public health system. So we can visualize a program for that. So if you ask me if we can go on subsidizing, I think you have to rethink where your subsidy goes. It's not a question of increasing the subsidy. You redirect a part of the subsidy which is given for the corporates, for the people, and I think it will resolve. But at this point of time, the important thing is to give support to the economy, stimulus to the economy. Today's economic, almost all newspapers, Times of Economic Times, you read editorial, starts with, I think, Shakespeare. If you want to do something, do it now. Stimulus now. And anyway, I would advise all of you to read that editorial of Economic Times today. Yeah.
So the second set of questions are this: SMEs in India is 6 million plus. In addition, we have the micro, tiny, and self-employed traders, sellers, producers in the informal sector. They do not have access to formal access to formal finance institutions. Is it possible to design a workable stimulus package that they can access?
Yes, it is possible. Not only possible, it's important, very important that it happens. Expand your credit guarantee program from 20,000 to much larger amount. There is no immediate payout from the government of India. It's only a guarantee given. If something happens, okay, something happens later. Expand that. I would say give a concession on the interest payment during the moratorium period. I'm not saying write off the debt and so on. But everybody knows they have not been producing in the moratorium period, and therefore they have not earned to pay the interest. Understand that. As a give a subvention for that period, increase your credit guaranteed amount, and promote your public sector to lend to them. Governor, look at the kind of huge infrastructure projects that the public sector banks have been compelled to lend. Everybody knows the stories. So you can force the banks to lend whether like it or not. I will tell you something. We have got Now, for example, under my department, Kerala Financial Corporation, SFC. So all over India is being closed down. So we reorganized it, had a payment program. See, just look at, they were all had NPAs, huge NPAs, but they had done the bad debt provisioning. What was the point of keeping NPAs for which bad debt provisioning has been done in your balance sheet? I just had a very liberal one-time settlements, got some money from that, wrote off all NPA, cleared the balance sheet, got double A rating for the company. We borrow from the market, and this budget I put 200 crores into the capital so they can even borrow more. So we are thinking of a 5,000 crore kind of lending program. Yesterday I decided, if the orders were issued, any startup in Kerala with a firm contract purchase order from government, quasi-government, or a standard corporate enterprise. Okay, you have a purchase order. 90% of the purchase order is given without without any collateral. With the interest subvention, 2%. Okay, that's it. Now, if any startup in Kerala as a prototype wants to develop it into a kind of product, come, we give you 1 crore with no collateral, nothing. If our KFC loses the money, we will guarantees the government will pay the financial institution. Now we have set up a committee of experts, IT experts, and so on, who will look at the prototype and tell, yeah, this is good. Because financial institutions, they are afraid whether to take the decision or not. They don't know technology. They know finance. They don't know technology. So you have a technology committee which says, this is good, proposal is good, go, is given. Now you need across the counter deals like this. Now there's nothing to prevent the financial institutions doing this. They can be done. So, and regarding micro, tiny, and so on, they need different time. You need microfinancial institutions and so on. We are getting, for example, we have told this year, every local government has to generate five new non-agricultural employment for every 1,000 persons. That's a task given. So they have to prepare plans, these projects as part of the plans. And we are asking our cooperatives to support financially so that this micro enterprises to come up. Kerala doesn't have big industries. Our fastest growing sector is the SME sector. And we are trying to design programs to support them. Now it can be done. Definitely it can be done.
Maybe last set of questions, you can have a look at it and then you can respond to some of the questions. If sovereign debt is written off, as you said, some of the debt can be annulled. How will this impact Indian economy in particular and global economy in general? Is it possible to replicate Kerala's stimulus package across India? The context in terms of support structure, systems and preparedness at other states could be limitation. What would be your advice? Banks are not lending in a pandemic situation. How can we sensitize banks and bankers to come up with innovative solutions? Currently, they have regressed to higher level of risk averse and holding on to the money meant for lending.
Okay. Now, if sovereign debt is written off, Nothing would happen. Nothing would happen.
Correct. Yeah.
The same. Um, is the sovereign debt ever repaid?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the history of debt, it doesn't go down, it goes on growing, growing.
Yeah.
There is Pigu's statement, you
Yeah.
grow out of debt.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, when you are a child, a 10 kg on your head will be very big weight. But if you are a full grown man, 10 kg is nothing, you'll get to pick up a 50 kg bag. So also as you grow, this debt GDP ratio goes down, doesn't matter. You grow out of debt. There's as long as your rate of growth of the economy is higher than the interest you are paying, that debt is
Yeah.
sustained. And so
Yeah.
sovereign debt is the debt of the nations. And uh, if one particular bank is going to write off, there will be a rush against them, run against them. But all banks together writing off, very well, it can be done. Then there is the question of Kerala stimulus package that can be, if we can replicate it. Why not? Why not? In fact, that's what government of India should do. This is my
True. Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
That one, there must be a huge package of relief. Use it as an opportunity um, to create rural assets and so on. And a health system for the people. So use it as an occasion and have a stimulus package. This can be an occasion to raise the patriotism of people, rally the people, as in times of war, that the nation is facing a crisis and you have to come together. Now, if you say if you have to come together, you have to first ensure that they are fed. On the one hand, you write off the debts of some corporates and then you don't do anything for the poor. The poor people are not going to rally around. I am, see, from Tamil Nadu, if you look, Kerala has a long history of development of health sector, educational sector, and so on. But the big lesson from Tamil Nadu is what took Kerala for a century to of social evolution and experimentation achieve. Tamil Nadu has achieved in a matter of 3 decades, 4 decades through um, uh, state intervention. Kerala, um, it was a demand-led development. Okay, social movements raising demand for welfare, education, healthcare, and so on, and state reluctantly or sometimes enthusiastically bowing down. But in Tamil Nadu, it has been the opposite of state-led supply for giving all this because of a political process of different kind. And therefore, I think, I have no doubt, what has been done in Kerala, not in the same manner. The stimulus package is possible. Is possible in Tamil Nadu also. And the bankers are not lending. How do you sensitize them? I'll tell you what we did in Kerala. When the COVID, we were the first state in India to call state level bankers committee, even before the stimulus package. After the stimulus package, we had already 3 state level bankers committee. We go on interacting with them. Put the record, you have not lent. This is a government area program, why don't you lend? Then they will tell the people are coming, this, etc. Then you have to confront them with actual cases. This particular person, what happened? Why did you lend? So, you see, there is no way you cannot issue an order and get them to obey. But I think our public sector banks have not yet become Shylocks yet. The kind of totally private motive driven bank. They're still public sector to understand. Therefore, there is a way of conversing with them, talking with them. And that's the only way. There's no other way. There's no other way. I think we have been getting on, not to our expectations, but we have been getting on. So we have to keep on talking to the bankers.
True. True. Yeah. I think there are many questions, but at the same time, the time is up, and you have been kind enough to respond to most of the questions. And time to really thank you for taking your time off and then responding to our invitation. And it has been an excellent presentation today because personally I liked it well. The way in which you narrated the global scenario, the way in which you narrated the national scenario, and then how the countries, developing countries are also, coping with this problem, and developing countries, how it is going to get affected. And your insights on the financial relationship between the union and the states. I think you hit the nail on its head, and that is where the problem lies. And the states' share was much bigger before GST and other amendments were passed, but now the state share is so small. And in federalism, if financial security and financial independence, if it is not assured, then it cannot be a true federal structure, true federation. So that way, I think you have been able to highlight that. And also, you have been very, very right in saying that the pandemic period needs relief, and mentioned the Kerala model of relief. I think you have Kerala has done a great job of, providing relief, and recovery, the second phase. And I'm sure that you are in the third phase of reforms. So the 3 Rs, and you are relief, recovery, and reforms, and you are in the third stage. And I'm sure that the Kerala will be able to do much better in the days to come, or the positive way in which it is responding. I'm reminded of only two things. You mentioned the 1929 Great Depression, and the one of the countries first affected was United States, and the president at that time was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And when Roosevelt ended his term after 14 years, the only president who was elected for 4 terms, people said that here is a man who remembered the people crushed under the economic pyramid. I think you and your government, are remembering the people who are crushed by the economic pyramid. So that way, I think Kerala's model is an, excellent model, and the way in which you have mentioned the debt crisis and the debt problem. And I remember the article I was reading, Ages, as you mentioned, Sebastian Kaupen and others, namely, is there life after debt? And that was a article that made us to think a lot about the debt and the international debt crisis. So thank you very much for joining us for today. For today's discussion, and outlining and telling us very clearly the economic impact of COVID-19, and the challenges of COVID-19. Uh, uh, Special thanks to you. And secondly, I would like to thank for the principal who has been instrumental in telling us, that we should organize some of these lectures on the economic impact of COVID. And you have inaugurated it. And we have Dr. C.P. Chandrasekhar and others lining up to speak to us after you. And I also take this opportunity to thank the School of Human Excellence, which is instrumental in getting you for this program. And I thank Mr. Devasagayam and all others in the SHE department. And the technical team which worked hard, to put all the questions together and present it before us, and for this excellent live streaming of this program. And this is headed by Dr. Xavier, Mr. Thompson, Ahilan, and Victor. And I thank them all. And above all, I thank all the participants for your overwhelming response. Many of you have signed up for Dr. Thomas Isaac's presentation. And these are all academics and researchers and youngsters who wanted to listen to you, and you have been kind enough and then responding to our invitation. So thank you all the participants, and thank you all for joining us for this one. So thank you once again, sir, and good night.
Bye. Okay then.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.